Imagine a world where there is no gravity. This fundamental force that we often take for granted is what keeps everything anchored to the ground, from people to buildings to entire oceans. But what would happen if this force suddenly disappeared? Let's explore the fascinating and chaotic consequences of a world without gravity. First, let's consider our daily life. Getting out of bed would be a challenge. Without gravity, you wouldn't stay in bed, you'd float. You'd have to tether yourself to your bed at night to avoid drifting away. Simple tasks like brushing your teeth, cooking, or even sitting down to eat would become incredibly difficult. Objects would float around, making it impossible to keep things in place. You'd need to push against surfaces to move, transforming even the most mundane activities into a floating adventure. Next, think about the impact on nature. Rivers would not flow. Without gravity pulling water downhill, rivers and streams would cease to exist. The water would simply hang in the air or form floating droplets. Ocean waves would no longer crash onto shores. Instead, large bodies of water would float as massive blobs, and there would be no tides to speak of. Trees and plants, which rely on gravity to grow upright and anchor their roots, would float away, disrupting entire ecosystems and food supplies. Buildings and infrastructure would need a complete redesign. In a gravity-free world, traditional bridges and roads would be unnecessary. Instead, structures would need to be anchored firmly to the ground to prevent them from floating away. Skyscrapers would be impractical unless they were tethered securely. Transportation would change dramatically. Cars, trains, and bicycles would become obsolete. Instead, people might use propulsion devices or even personal jetpacks to move around, navigating through a three-dimensional space. Our bodies would also undergo significant changes. Without gravity, our muscles and bones would weaken over time, similar to the effects experienced by astronauts in space. The lack of resistance and pressure on our skeletal system would lead to a loss of bone density and muscle mass. The human circulatory system would also struggle, as gravity helps to pump blood from our feet back to our hearts. This could lead to a range of health problems, including poor circulation and weakened cardiovascular health. The lack of gravity would even affect the Earth itself. Gravity is what holds our atmosphere close to the planet. Without it, the atmosphere would slowly drift away into space, making the Earth uninhabitable. Weather patterns would become chaotic. With no gravitational force to drive winds and currents, there would be no stable weather systems. Rain wouldn't fall, it would just hang in the air, creating perpetual clouds of water vapor. The implications extend beyond our planet. Gravity is the force that keeps the moon in orbit around the Earth and the Earth in orbit around the sun. Without gravity, the moon would drift away, causing dramatic changes to our night skies and tidal patterns. The Earth itself would no longer follow a stable orbit around the sun, potentially sending it careening into space or into a collision course with other celestial bodies. In summary, a world without gravity would be a radically different and chaotic place. Our daily routines, natural landscapes, infrastructure, transportation methods, human health, and the very planet itself would face immense challenges. Gravity is crucial for maintaining the balance of life and the environment on Earth. While it's fascinating to imagine such a scenario, it's also a reminder of how essential gravity is to our existence. So next time you feel the pull of gravity, remember how vital it is for life as we know it.